3, 2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another interesting a month here of birthday picks. Mine and Brandon's, I believe, and we are starting the month with a couple of picks by myself. And the first one that I chose was a 2022 film. Look at that. A brand new freaking film.
Versus
called Don't Worry, Darling. It is directed by Olivia Wilde. And I don't know why it's a little bit controversial, but I guess we'll get there.
I know.
So this is what the film is about. And then I'll go into like who stars in it. A 1950s housewife living with her husband in a utopian experimental community begins to worry that his glamorous company could be hiding disturbing secrets. And the film does star Florence Pugh, which the last time I saw her was in Midsommar. Harry Styles, who's kind of a singer. Chris Pine, who I think the latest movie that I watched him in recently was
Legions of Harry Styles
fans. And Olivia Wilde and Kiki Lane, Gemma-chan, Nick Kroll, among many others. So,
Rickroll.
It's written by Katie Silverman, Carrie Van Dyke, and Shane Van Dyke. I wonder if those two are related to Dick Van Dyke. But in any case, let us go into first impressions. Let's go with you, Jake. Was this a first time watch for you?
Yes, it was. And actually, this is a kind of a funny thing with this one. First of all, I do thank you for giving me an excuse to watch this one during the final month of viewing for the Versus Awards, where I need every excuse available to me to knock out the films on my list for the year. And this was one of them. This was one that I heard announced last spring in 2022, and I was like, holy crap, I'm going to see that. And it was because I saw the first film directed by Olivia Wilde, Booksmart, which was an excellent film. And I like Olivia Wilde, and I was curious to see where she would go in a completely different direction with this film. I'm a big fan of Florence Pugh, partly because of Midsommar. And, you know, there were other things about it that were interesting to me. And I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I'll be watching that one. It was actually one of the first non-franchise films of the year that I put on my to-watch list. And then it came out, and I just kind of forgot about it because that's what happens when I make my plans early in the year. Life happens, and I end up seeing just a fraction of the movies that I'm going to. And I have checked this out at least twice now from the library, and I took it back. Actually, I think I took it back the day before you announced this was going to be one of our selections. Or reminded us, you may have announced it earlier, but you reminded us that it was coming up. And I was like, okay, that's timely. I had heard something about the controversy, but I had not heard the specifics. I just knew that the film underperformed when it came out. It didn't do anything during award season, and then suddenly when I was talking about watching it, people were going, "Oh, that movie," or something like that, and I was like, "Whoa, where's this coming from?" and like I said, we can talk about it as we're going on. Watching it through that, like, because I did pause it right after I started. I was like, I need to know what the big deal is. It did give me a little bit of an interesting lens to watch it through. But overall, I feel like the movie turned out pretty solid. I feel like any issues with the movie were not the result of the behind the scenes issues as much as maybe there might have been some script issues or something. Overall, it was a pretty decent movie. The acting was solid. They did a pretty good job with the creepy factor. The twist, they did a pretty good job of doing a mild twist and then hitting you full on with the, oh shit, that's what's really going on. And I think they did a good job with that. So yeah, overall, I'm glad I got to see it. I remain puzzled that we have not brought up Midsummer as an option on this channel, but you know. And
Quite
yeah,
frankly,
I'll
Midsommar is disturbing.
well, it is. Does that stop most of the people on this channel?
No.
Wait until I bring it out and say we're going to do the extended director's cut version.
Oh dear God, no. It was great the way it was. I don't need an extra hour.
I don't know what movie you guys are talking about unless
Midsommar.
Huh?
Midsommar. We watched it. It was where that old guy fell from the cliff. Like all of a sudden, it was like splat.
Oh, is that the one you were talking about?
Yes, that's the one I was talking about.
Maybe in a nutshell.
All right.
All right.
That was
yeah.
that was different. That was different.
Anyway.
All right, but yeah, the you know, Dave. Actually, I just realized this because Ari Aster did. He did the Northman too, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
So you got two of my favorite hot new actresses in who are both doing films that came after, or they're both. No, they didn't both come after. But you're doing two actresses who starred in Ari Aster films. That's kind of fun because I know Anya Taylor-Joy starred in The Northman, and that was another interesting movie. But very cool. Like I said, glad we got to do this one. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So heading over to you, Tammy. You're the one who introduced this to me. So was this a first time watch for you?
No, we had previously watched it because I got intrigued by the ads for it, and I was like, "That looks really cool." And then the ad came on, and I said, "See, doesn't that look really cool?"
She kept asking me, "Did you see the ad for this?" I was like, "Nope." Because she seems to see all the ads like way ahead of me, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, which is really funny because usually I skip through the ads because I watch stuff on the DVR, but somehow I managed.
I had seen the trailer for this, and it was a good trailer.
Yeah, somehow I managed to catch just the right trailers when I'm doing my skip through. But no, this is the second time we watched it, and I definitely enjoyed it. It's like you said about the little hint of what's going on, and then all of a sudden, wow, that's what's going on. Yeah, that was definitely, you had the little things going through it, going, huh? Oh, okay, what's going on with that? Okay, little things messing with your mind as going through the movie. But I really liked it though, and I liked the making you think and making you wonder what's really happening. I like that idea. So um, I felt it was very enjoyable. I think everybody, I don't know actors and actresses all as well as all of you guys with some of some of them, but I think they all did a good job. And yeah, I was I was fine with watching it again when he brought it up. I was like, oh, that one. So
Okay, is that pretty much it then?
for now,
Okay, heading over to you, Brandon. Was this the first time watch for you?
Yes. Actually, unlike everybody else, I had never heard of this movie or its controversy when you first brought it up. Um, though when I watched it, Kim had said, "Oh, I've been meaning to watch this, so let's watch it together." So uh, we did, and of course, she filled me in on the entire controversy throughout the film. And I'll admit, if everything that has been said about this film is true, it is amazing how they got what they did out of this. Um, and we can go into the controversy as later and see if Jake's and my notes add up.
Yeah,
Um,
because I have no idea about the controversy. All
neither
I
do
know,
I. So I'd be
well,
I really liked this film after I watched it. It's got elements.
the biggest issues come
Mhm.
from Olivia Wilde, Florence Pugh, and Shia LaBeouf. If you really want to look at those things. But we'll
And Harry
get into
Styles, but
that. And Harry Styles a little bit, but yeah. But there is well, technically a lot when it comes to
well,
distraction factor. But yeah,
one controversy that I is worth mentioning because Dave listed off the stars. Kiki Lane is given star billing, but she and the guy that plays her husband, apparently they cut most of their scenes.
Yeah.
And so that was a sort of controversy. She was very vocal that they apparently ended up dating and they're happy about that, but otherwise they were not given the roles they were promised.
as far as like the movie itself goes, I mean, as far as Stepford Wives clones are, it was all right. I didn't. I felt like it was trying to be original while at the same time being extremely predictable at the same time. Um, so to me, it was an okay Stepford Wives clone. I still prefer the original Stepford Wives to this, but I mean, as far as that goes, I feel like it missed a lot of chances to really stand out and do something different. Um, but like I say, well acted, very strange, but an interesting watch overall. And that is all I got to say about that.
I'm going at this at a different angle because I remember shows like The Prisoner with Patrick McGoohan, and he did this show called The Prisoner, uh, and it ran for about 17 episodes, and it was kind of an answer to a secret agent man show. Like what happens after you retire from being a secret agent. Well, he ended up waking up in the middle of a place called the Village, and they thought he would be happy with that because he knew way too fucking much. And they chased after him with the big giant beach ball. Every time he tried to leave, this beach ball chased after him, and heads fucking moved, and it was a weird fucking British television show. And then they remade it with Ian McKellen and Jim Gavazio on AMC, and that was fucking brilliant as well. Definitely a different take, and the reason why I mentioned these is because I was getting kind of that kind of a vibe, because you have this village, and it does kind of have this a sense of you can't really leave, and definitely has that desert background where whatever they're doing, you just can't like go outside the boundaries of it, you know. So, but then I was getting like Suspiria vibes with the ballet, and I was also getting some Eraserhead vibes with the white-haired ladies. So
interesting. There is a little bit of a Lynchian feel to part of it, yeah.
So, to me, it's like all of the things that I've loved in television and some of the movies combined with this trippy ass, like, okay, we're not going to let these people out, kind of a vibe. And I've always kind of been kind of interested in those like government like conspiracy. Okay, you know too much. Okay, so we're just gonna like make sure that we like put you off in some random ass area and like just leave you there and watch you. You know, it's weird, but it's interesting, and I liked this story. I liked the people behind it. I didn't know about the controversies about anything. I didn't care, but I enjoy it, and I thought and when Tammy brought it to me, okay, maybe I didn't know about it, but damn, did I like the movie afterwards. So I get the Stepford vibes too, but I have all this other like informational stuff, you know, from other different things that I've seen, and it just kind of like falls right in the middle, and I fucking love it. So
hey, film is all about our interpretation of the art, not necessarily what the artist was trying to convey. So
exactly.
it's all.
You know what else is? You know what else this one brings to mind, for me at least? One of the better subplots in Heroes, where you had HRG and the Haitian going around mind wiping people, and the more that they would mind wipe them, the worse it would get. Like and so I kind of had that vibe with the treatment, quote unquote, that she gets, you know.
And
that's kind of what happens in Prisoner too. Like every time he tries to escape, they try to mind wipe his ass to make sure that he goes back to being the same old person that they wanted him to be.
I mean, I don't really look at this as a new statement. I mean, she's making the same basic statement as the Stepford Wives about how society tries to control women through the men's own image of them, and how men wish to possess women, and that is through film. But in a weird, artistic, crazy way. Like, I feel like it was the Stepford Wives, but the director decided to take a few hits of acid first.
Okay. Or in this case,
most of her time
take a few hits. I think in this case, she took a few hits of Pop Star first.
Technically, if you go with what Florence Pugh said, the director was rarely even there to direct the film. It was mostly her and the assistant director while she was screwing some of the other actors.
She was off snogging Harry Styles, yeah. But anyway, so good times.
Okay, well, I suppose let's get into the plot a little bit more of the film. I definitely love the soundtrack to this movie. Specifically because it does deal with a lot of like 1950s music, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But I just wanted to point that out. But we have a couple that I believe that they've recently moved into this community. Names of Alice and Jack. And those, as we know, are played by Florence Pugh and Harry Styles. And it's kind of run by Bunny and Frank, who are played by Christopher Pine and Olivia Wilde herself. I guess the way I heard it originally, Olivia Wilde had wanted to play the role of Alice. But
Right.
once she saw Florence Pugh in Midsommar, she was like, "Oh, she's got to be my Alice."
Right.
So-
Real quick thing though. Bunny is her neighbor. Shelley, Gemma Chan's character, is Frank's wife in this one, so she's kind of the one that's helping him out. But yeah, Bunny is sort of the, I guess you could say, senior resident of the street that they live on. The go-to person.
Yeah. The neighbor next door with the kids, right?
Right.
So, but yeah, it looks like a little cul-de-sac that they live on. I believe Jack drives was it a Chevelle or a Chevy? Tammy,
This is a very 60s.
A Corvette.
a Corvette. Okay, yeah, a silver Corvette. And when I saw it, I was like a similar to a James Dean car type, you know.
He didn't
And
have the
I think-
Corvette at the beginning, though. He got the Corvette after he got promoted.
Yeah.
Right.
I love the 60s aesthetic because it throws you off, especially in the beginning where they're having that party and you can see the hairstyles and so on. And I do like that.
Right.
Again, I do feel like that was a
Actually-
big nod to the Stepford Wives right there, but it's
Right.
one that you weren't supposed to catch until later on when you realize what
And-
it was you were getting into.
It's also something that is often a nod to the era. I feel like, again, we're talking about movies that this gives us a vibe of. That opening scene, not the opening scene, the opening scenes are just a party. It's actually kind of rough and rowdy, but like not rough, you know what I mean? Rough around the edges is what I was trying to say. That's almost more like a Robert Altman sort of thing where there was overlapping dialogue, ambient noise, all that kind of stuff. But then you go to the next, like the workday, the start of the workday, and when
Yeah,
everyone's
start of the
going
workday.
off, getting in their car. What's that?
The start of the workday, it starts with routine.
Right.
A lot of
The
like 2
way
cups of
the way
coffee,
that they
eggs, bacon.
I'm reminded of the opening to Dexter.
Right, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, the morning sequence of the eggs and stuff, that's Dexterish. But like when they actually go outside, you see the neighborhood, everyone getting their cars, they're all moving in tandem. I was reminded, if I remember correctly, there is an almost identical scene at the start of Edward Scissorhands. And it reminded me a lot of that, of like the picture perfect postcard community where everything goes by clockwork.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
It totally reminded me of that. Now that you mentioned it, I was just like, I know what he's talking about. I was going to say.
But yeah, so a lot of these beginning scenes have to do with the routine, day in, day out, womanly chores that well, specifically that has to deal around Alice and Jack, per se, in their day-to-day lives, what she has to do to prepare for his homecoming at the end of the night, you know, because every meal is
Right.
elaborate. There's several different courses. There's a lot of house cleaning
Mhm.
that has to be done,
Right.
and there is strict, rigid routine in a dance number that she has to go and do with the
Mhm.
community lady.
Mhm. And
So
again, here you've also got the radio broadcast going throughout the day. That's pretty much messages from Frank interspersed with the music of the era and that kind of stuff. And here, there's
Very
also a strong 1984 vibe, like, and the book I just read, Our Missing Hearts, both of those in 1984, Our Missing Hearts, both deal with controlling people through knowledge or lack thereof, basically. And by having these strict routines, very little in the way of variety to what they can listen to. They are strictly admonished not to pry too far into what their husbands do. Um, there's a lot of rules, a lot of repetition, and it keeps them not only keeps them in line, but it keeps them in a mental frame of mind where they don't even realize that it is a prison. They don't realize this. They realize they think they're happy, you know?
That's what hell is. Repetition.
Yeah.
and it's this repetition that starts to unwind the mind of Alice. And it starts, I believe, by her friend who starts to exhibit some um, mentally challenged moments where she is evidently questioning, certain things out in public, and also standing in odd positions, just like she's in a fucking dance. And you can tell that her mind has become undone, and with the strict rules and regulations of things, and evidently, as the film progresses, we learn that there is actually stuff that she did that she found out too much. You know, evidently she took her child out to the desert eventually, which is told to us through fleeting moments. What do y'all think about that angle of the story? I mean, eventually what happens is I feel like Alice almost became uh, a telekinesis, like of when bad things were going to happen with her friend.
Going to the desert's bad and gay. Well, it's more of her friend, and this is the I think the Kiki Lane role, Margaret. Um, she, I don't know if they really say how things started to change for her, but she did. Yeah, she went out into the desert, which they are told repeatedly is a no-no. It's a bad thing. You do not go out in the desert. It's dangerous. It's dangerous for everyone. And she took, yeah, her kid never came back, and she had to get quote unquote treated. But like her mind is cracking and things are coming through, and she's starting to say things. And whatever started that process for her, I think, is unclear. But it kind of, I think, is the catalyst that starts Alice's mind starting to let things through that the brainwashing and reprogramming was supposed to keep out. And I don't know about what's that?
I mean, at first, she does like everybody else and shuns her. But it's not until Margaret commits suicide in front of her that she starts to do this, especially when everybody else is going, you didn't see that. That's not what happened.
She
Yeah,
has
so-
started seeing weird stuff. Yeah.
And then came the whole seeing of the plane crash with the trolley driver, and
Yep.
then that led to her going into the desert and then seeing the truth for what it was.
Right.
Yep, and she saw too much. So I think it's at that moment where they actually did the first mind programming, and I guess she came back to her friends, but here's the thing: no matter what they seemed to do, it just seemed to unravel like faster and faster in her mind. But I do like that moment in the dancing room where she sees her friend like smashing her head against the glass like over and over. That is a powerful moment.
Yeah. Well, it's also worth noting at this point that we've gone to a big party where we meet Frank for the first time. And Chris Pine is Frank. And I say again, this movie is evidence that he could be if they wanted to make a movie where he plays a cult leader, he could do a really good job. He kind of plays one here, but it's.
So what do you think? Could he give Joaquin Phoenix a run for his money in Master, or whatever that movie was?
No. Philip Seymour Hoffman was the cult leader there.
That's right. That's
No,
right.
Phoenix,
you think he could have given Philip Seymour Hoffman a run for his money in that movie?
Yeah, I will say that the Oscars definitely snubbed this. Of course, the controversy there, but I swear, without the snubbing, there should have been some acting nods.
Yeah.
I mean, Florence Pugh, Harry Styles, all of them. Chris Pine, as you said. I mean, shoot, Harry Styles. I had thought that, oh well, he's just having trouble doing the accent right, and then when I realized what it was, I said, oh, that's perfect. Because the way that he did his accent with those slight mistakes and so on, that was perfect acting wise. I gotta give him that.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even really think too much about that. But yeah, I noticed that in the quote real life scenes, he didn't have the same accent. And then finally, when we see what he was actually doing, he said chosen nationality British, and it was like, isn't that interesting? but yeah, what was I going to say with Pine? For whatever reason, he really takes a liking. I mean, we mentioned before that Jack gets a promotion. He takes a liking to these two for some reason. And it might be because he caught them shagging in his bedroom. But he tells her later straight up, I think you could challenge me. And so he starts goading her, and that, of course, does lead to the big break. But he is pushing her buttons from, and when she comes back from the desert, you get the impression, I don't know if y'all got the same impression. I got the impression that Jack wasn't even fully filled in on what happened, and that Frank basically used this as an opportunity to kind of goad her along further. I don't know if y'all saw it the same way.
So, but then when it came to the reveal and it told us that he's the reason why she's in this world to begin with, which, spoiler alert, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, we
indeed
probably spoil the heck out of these things, but then that makes me think, okay, maybe he just dialed back a little bit to make us think that,
Well, I think Frank.
Well, he may have brought her in, but he was not behind. He may have brought her in, but he was not the one controlling this world. not remotely.
But I think
I got the
Frank was
impression
goading
Jack
her.
was almost. What's that?
I think Frank was goading her, like you said.
Yeah, I agree. But I do think that at the same time, though Frank ran the organization, uh, all the men in that were all in. They were all in on the conspiracy, and this is one of the things I thought was a disappointment to me, because there were a couple of things like the trolley driver, which is probably just a figment type character created by the world, but
In
you know
DC.
yeah, I thought to myself, this had it would have been interesting if this had been a couple of different twists, because to me the what the twist was, it was an obvious twist. It's like, well, it's the men trying to control their wives and turn them into something that they like because they're not happy with the wives' independence and they wanted to control them more. That was the obvious ending to me. That I predicted that from the time she was leaving the trolley and saw that. It's like, that's how it's going to end. And I was hoping maybe it's not. Maybe because the men are acting odd too. Maybe they're a part of this, and maybe this guy is a cult leader and doing something different. And I felt like this could have benefited more if they decided to go somewhere else with it than what was predictable, in my opinion. Like, ending wise, I felt like they could have done so many different things. Or what if she really was crazy and the world was real around her? These are things, or that this was an experiment. This would have been, there are just so many other ways it could have gone than Stedford Wives.
Yeah. I will say though, the fact that it goes all Sword Art Online at the end that was a surprise to me. The how was a surprise to me. The why and what were not a surprise, but the how was. So I give them points for creativity there, except for the fact that it eerily reminded me of the second half of SAO, which I hated for various reasons, which were duplicated here.
Eh,
See, yeah, I know that it's predictable, but there's just something about this film that, even with its predictability, it was still a nice reveal at the end. It was kind of like that moment in what was that? Anyways, I feel like it was a moment of, okay, well, is she really going to survive, or is she? And there's still some unpredictability at the end. And if the ending was predictable, then yeah, I would have been like, fuck this movie. But it wasn't predictable, the ending, because it was shall I say, okay, you guess what happens.
well,
But I do have to say that there are some very sexy moments in here for
well, yeah.
for our lead actress here, for Q.
I mean, there were some very intense sex scenes.
Well, I love the fact that she, like, on like the third day, she went out in this like see-through thing. You could see her nipples, and you could see her nipples while she was watching the window. I mean, this was a very sexy like number here, So, but I really think that Frances Pugh is a very beautiful woman. So,
there was a film that I felt had a lot of the similar feels to this one. but came across better to me. It was there was a film called A Cure for Wellness that it's very different in a lot of ways, but I also thought it had a lot of similarity when it came to visual aesthetic and kind of that druggy, trippy feel and that sinister thing. That one also had some predictability to me, but I did feel like it threw me a few curveballs that this did not. Um, and but there are some movies that do that, and I feel like they were pretty good. So I'm not, and I thought this one was very well done. Otherwise, but to me, it's another remake in a long line of remakes.
Okay. Well, there is. I did like the look of the food that was being cooked. I mean, I loved that the look of that roast that she had cooked. Of course, when Harry Styles came and cooked for the day, I thought
What
that
happened?
was. You were saying?
I said, hey, what happened?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
But the day that Harry Styles' character Jack came and was like cooking for her, you could tell that he had never cooked a damn thing in his life, let alone do anything remotely
Making
what she was doing.
mashed potatoes out of raw potatoes.
Yeah.
So I
Well, honey,
wonder
you're supposed to boil them first.
how much of that was real and how much of that was an act to be like, for that character. Because in reality, he had a regular job, but she was the breadwinner, and he had to serve her dinner every time after she got back from work. So I wonder how much that was an
Did
act on
did
his
he
part.
though?
That one scene where she comes back, he's giving her dinner, but it's cold because she arrived back later than
Well,
than
there's the one scene where she comes in and he's like, "Well, I thought I didn't, you know, I didn't." Oh, no, okay, he did talk about fixing dinner, right?
yeah,
He was complaining about not. All right, sorry, I
yeah,
got it mixed up.
yep. But I mean, again, I don't know how much of that was the whole thing. It's sort of like you can say that maybe he likes her or loves her, but at the same time, he loves her as an object. I mean, that's the
Oh yeah,
political
he
statement of
definitely
this
sexualized.
movie is that men are these animals that look at women as objects. And you could see that also in the fact that when he gets home, he doesn't have any interest in the food. Of course, to him, the food isn't real anyway. So he goes straight to the sex. And that's the thing, because again, that's the thing. That's what he paid for. That's what he wants out of the whole thing.
In a sense, it definitely seems like he definitely paid for his happiness, not hers. And when she starts like breaking that reality moment, starting to remember like that other reality, um, it is where we get that a moment where she basically tells him that he took that choice away from her. But we really don't know whether he took that choice away from her really either. She could have like
Which choice?
ultimately like decided to hey, let's go do this world thing and see where it takes us, because she might be tired with her job. We
Yeah,
don't know that.
the only one.
I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah, there's only
I think
one
it's pretty
woman.
clear she was.
To my knowledge, there was only one woman who had a choice in any of that, and that was the older one. Because of the kids that she lost, which is a very sad story, and one that I actually thought was a genuine piece of writing that was one of the things that did hit me in out of the side corners, that it isn't just that that idea that,
Yeah.
okay, it was appealing to her because of that.
Well, I'm a little unclear about how much Shelley might have known, because she very definitely seemed to be an active participant. And I wonder if she and Frank kind of created this thing together,
That was very,
or
very
if she was.
Very subjective.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it seems like Frank was very dominant and a very commandeering speaker.
It wasn't clear in the thing. I mean, there was a part that could lead me to believe that maybe she was more the mastermind than him, but with the
Yeah.
political message the movie is sending, I'm almost 100% clear. I'm almost 100% that she is under Frank's control.
I wonder because the way that she's played and the way that Frank's played, and I don't know if this would necessarily be against the messaging you're talking about. She does seem more calculating, more really concerned about maintaining order, maintaining things as is. And she does seem like the sort who's used to saying the word and things get done. Whereas Frank really is charismatic. He really is great at that kind of wheeling and dealing kind of.
Especially at the dinner
What's that?
Especially at the dinner
Right.
table when Shelley and Frank were
Right.
sitting there amongst the guests, and Shelley,
Yeah.
she was not putting up with Alice's questions. She,
Right.
in fact, she was like, we helped you out,
Which basically is kind of where I'm going. Like, I wonder if maybe Shelley had every bit as much to do as Frank with the whole setup, but because he was the more charismatic one, because it would fit with this idea of the 50s vibe better if he was the one in charge, she might have ceded control. And when she turns on him at the end, it may have been like, well, your way didn't work. Now it's my turn.
Why?
So,
I kind of got the impression that Frank was the one that was in charge, because it seems like Jack is getting the idea from things he's listening to from Frank, that he's listening to and watching on his computer from Frank. That somehow Jack has found out about this, and he's listening to all the preaching from Frank and listening to everything that Frank says about this. So that's why, to me, it seems like Frank is the one that's in charge.
Well, and I love that the only piece of information that we get about what the hell they're doing up there on that like dirt mountain is from one of the other gals. She opens up her mouth about how she thinks that it has to do with weaponry and
they got the earthquakes. It's like they're bomb testing.
Yeah, so there is definitely that wartime vibe here that you aforementioned, Jake, for sure. So I feel like that is definitely something that kind of Frank was involved with from the get-go.
Yeah. See, to me, I saw that turning on as her finally breaking free of his control. In my opinion, probably what happened was she probably invented the technology, and then Frank stole it to use it for his own ends, and basically used it to brainwash her into controlling things for him. Again, because it goes very big plays very strongly into the themes that Olivia Wilde is going for, and I feel like that would probably be the most likely thing, is that she broke free of it and is basically getting him back for what he did to her. Of course, these are all just, theorizings.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
Theorizing.
But we do have our main character finding out the truth, and she does not take it well. In fact, she ends up, in fact, killing Jack in the process, and because she did, her neighbor friend who. I think this is the moment that we learn that okay, she knew all along, but she's okay with it because she would never see her kids exactly like this any other way.
Right.
And she tells her to get the fuck out of there.
Right.
And she does take
Now
a little bit to get going.
we should mention that Alice kills Jack in self-defense. She doesn't just come out and kill him. It's like he won't leave her alone.
Well,
and
yeah,
it's almost
he starts to initiate. He starts to initiate a sexual routine that he's used to, like getting with her, and she just wasn't having it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she at first thought that he was on her side, and admittedly, there was a time, and again, I had figured it was going to go the way it did, but I had hoped, especially when he broke down by turning her in on that initial thing after she said, "Let's leave," I thought maybe it's not going to go that way. Which, of course, I was wrong. He was indeed the bad guy, and a misguided thought of love, more like he mistook love for ownership of property, which ended there. But I mean, she basically fought back and broke free of the oppression, which was he was the oppressor. So she managed to do that.
Yep, and ultimately she is told to run and get out of there.
Fly away.
And she goes out, and I think this is the moment where it shows that the world is even the people in this world are starting to unbend, unwind, untether from their own, because once she gets outside, I guess one of the I think the neighbor lady's husband was trying to stop her from getting away, but she did get into Jack's vehicle, and she did get a head start. Although there are men that apparently work for the village or whatever the company that
People in
were
red coats.
Yeah, in red coats, and of course there was a doctor that was brief. Has been shown briefly throughout the film. In fact, she actually ended up stealing some documents on her friend, which once she realized there wasn't much in the file, because a lot of it was blacked out and blotted out, like they were covering it up. I think she decided to burn the documents.
Oh, I love the doctor. He was a very cool and creepy character. I mean, having him stand alongside, watching eerily at the party, and then all the men in red coats that they had were also really good touch on that artistically.
Yeah, I feel like he was also an initial founder of this digital community, because that's how Frank introduced him, at the party. that he started this venture?
Maybe, but I almost wonder. Certainly, the men in red coats. The doctor is harder to call, but I think the men in red coats were definitely just NPCs. Harder to say with the doctor, but if
he's definitely
if he was an actual, yeah,
he's an employee. If he's an actual person there,
We
right.
definitely get a car chase with classic cars, and I do like the fact that you got two cars coming alongside her, and the doctor barreling towards her, and she decides to step on the brake, and those cars just crash into each other. And then she races the car up to the dirt track on this dirt mountain, and she runs it into the side of the mountain, and then
I'll bet that one scene with the.
I guess
I bet that one scene.
Go ahead.
I'll bet that one scene where she put on her brake and the others ran ahead. That was pretty cool. But I have a feeling that Tammy, it probably was a tragic, horrifying scene for you, right?
Seeing those cars mutilated like that?
Yeah.
Or do you really care about those kinds of cars, Tammy? You're on mute. Okay. In any case, so we get her dinging the car into to the side of the mountain, which I guess I didn't realize that she had when she dinged it into the side of the mountain, she basically covered the road so that when they actually came to that car, and it was a stuck car, of course, they ended up stopping at that moment. But Tammy said something, and I literally can't get it out of my head. She said that the men climbing the mountain looked like ants climbing a hill.
Ants.
They kind of look like that, like red fire ants, like climbing an anthill from a distance. And I said to myself, okay, these guys have some parkour in their back history.
That's actually not a bad comparison. They are like the worker ants protecting the nest. So it could very well be that's exactly what they were going for.
But there was one thing that I wanted to mention before we hit this ending here. IMDb kind of mentioned this a bit of trivia. So so Frank, the Victory Project's leader, is shown living in Kaufman House, one of the most well-known mid-century homes in the world. Although the Kaufman House's exterior has been shown at various times over the years in both film and TV, Don't Worry, Darling is the first film to feature scenes shot on the property itself, including several peeks at its rarely seen interiors. Also, the hilltop headquarters of the Victory Corporation is the iconic Volcano House in the Mojave Desert community of Newberry Springs, California. The house was owned by PBS television personality Huell Hauser, who donated the house to Chapman University in 2012, shortly before his death. So I just wanted to mention those two landmarks that are evidently in the film, if you did not know about them. So
good deal.
Now we get to the somewhat final end where she ends up running up to the volcano house on top of the hill, and she evidently is having a last moment with her husband. And then I guess the men are coming up behind her, and she places her hands to an invisible wall or force field of some sort, and that's when we get that whole gasp at the end of like her possibly waking up. So, and I believe that is the end of the film. So, did anyone have a thought process on anything that I have spoken about yet?
I thought that the ending was rather abrupt. I understand what they were doing for it, but still, I'd rather see her full moment of triumph instead of it just ending abruptly like that. Though again, I totally understand why they did it, and I find it's fine. I just was kind of hoping I could see her, triumph over it, and maybe do like a follow-up where they try and track the men down and have them arrested for enslaving their wives, stuff like that.
I'm kind of glad they didn't do that. Although I admit a scene of her
a true Me Too
showing her. What's that?
A true Me Too ending, because this really is a good film. If you think about the Me Too movement, this is a really good film for that movement. It does really help in that regard.
Well, like I said, though, I think it is wise they ended it where they did, but a visual of her waking up, in addition to just the gasp, might have been a nice addition. I admit. Yeah.
I guess I would have to kind of agree that was kind of an abrupt ending. I would have wanted like something to touch more. Maybe not an entire like an entire okay, let's tie it all in and make it nice like a freaking bow, but at least give us a little bit more rope,
rope to hang it with.
Yeah, exactly. But I think we're at the production angle here. So what did y'all think about the production?
Oh, beautiful production values. I mean, I have nothing against the production. I would say that the film itself treated it very well. It was very creepy at times. The visuals were amazing. And in general, I thought that the film looked amazing. So kudos on that, in my opinion.
I have to concur.
Yeah, I'll agree. I think. And Dave, you touched on some of the interesting stuff they got to do in terms of filming locations and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they did a really good job with the look of the film. I tend to be mixed when you get a sort of a collage of images that's supposed to indicate some sort of artistic something or other. I tend to be kind of mixed on how much I enjoy those. And this one, of course, had those, both in terms of the repeated moments of skirting consciousness, the images that kind of break through her consciousness here and there.
I did kind of like
some of those
they did underwater. I did kind of like that moment that they did underwater, where instead of having the bubbles float up, they floated them down.
Yeah,
I noticed that, and I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So
yeah, like I said, there were. What's that?
And I agree. I'm definitely one with unsettling imagery. Always pleases me in these types of films.
Well, I was going to say it's more of a mixed bag for me, but I think here, especially because of the whole idea of repetition for control, the fact that they did repeat some of them did have an effective use. So I'll give them that. And some of the images were really cool, like that whole sort of synchronized dance thing they did that was like the ring, just like the eye and whatever. I thought that was really cool. Yeah, there were some really fun images in that.
See, that's where I was
And
getting
of course,
the Suspiria vibes.
yeah, oh, I could see that. Yeah. Interestingly enough, one of the movies I didn't get much of a feel of at all was Booksmart. It again, I find it fascinating that Olivia Wilde made both of the movies, and it makes me wonder which one is more to her strengths, and if she does keep doing a lot more movies, like is she going to be more of a comedic director or more of a horror thriller director, or were these both flukes and she'll go off in a completely different direction?
I think she could continue to do political films like this,
Yeah.
and truly make a mark in the progressive world. I mean, this was a very progressive film, and but I mean, not as progressive as Stepford Wives was back in its day because it's a different thing. But I think it really goes well, and is an interesting one fighting back at the whole thing at the time. It's a very interesting film in that expression.
Okay. Tammy, if you could say anything on production, what do you think? Okay. Give me 1 second. We'll see if I can resurrect the dead.
I totally agree with that statement. Okay. Jack's paranoia tapes. But yeah, I thought this film had a good look to it, definitely, and a lot of the themes did that.
I
There you go.
didn't quite catch what you were asking either. So
Okay. Well, we're asking you about what you thought of the production. I forget exactly what we were asking you about before.
well, I thought the production was good. I mean, there wasn't, as far as what I want to say. I can't think of the right word now. Well, because it doesn't have all kinds of stuff in it that like it wouldn't be for real.
The subversive, subliminal, like filmmaking that would be considered artsy.
Well, that you know what I'm talking about. I just can't think of the word. Just went away. That's all. It disappeared. It doesn't have like spaceships in it. That they,
Okay.
Oh,
So you're saying more of a grounded sci-fi, basically,
right?
Or-
And oh, make
A thriller?
no spaceships would be make believe, and they want to make it look real.
Conspiracy?
CGI.
Sci-fi? Oh, CGI.
So it's not really a film that's got that in it. So as far as production goes, it's a lot more realistic because it's not full of CGI things. It just, but it more or less is using your mind for things instead of CGI and all that stuff for your mind to see. So, so I thought the production was good. Definitely like the cars. That's for sure.
Oh, that's what we were asking you about. What did you think about? Did you care about the cars when they crashed?
Well, the Corvette, at least, I care about the other one somewhat, but I care about the Corvette more.
Well, that only careened into the side of the mountains, so it didn't really get like
Yeah,
entirely.
it got smushed in between two of them.
Oh, sort of, but it
Sort of.
still was intact once it careened into the side of the dirt mountain.
It was smushed.
But yeah. So after production, I guess we go into the music part of it, which let's look at the soundtrack to that. So we definitely have some stuff from Harry Styles. With You All the Time, which evidently it was written by Harry Styles and performed by Florence Pugh and Harry Styles as Alice and Jack. And then we got
Right.
The Right Time, which Ray Charles, Bang Bang, which is performed by Dizzy Gillespie, Where or When by Peggy Lee, Coming Home Baby by Mel Torme.
Dave, if you go through this whole list, it's going to be a long fucking list. It's there's a lot of songs in here.
A lot of songs from the period.
Yeah, they're good songs for the most part. Although I have to say, they need to put a pin in using The End of the World in movies, because that has gotten to the point of, even though it's spot on, it's too spot on. How many movies have used that now? Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely love the soundtrack. That's
I like the sound.
It's a good
the soundtrack just fine.
The theme that Styles wrote, it's worth noting that that's something that the two of them sang as a couple. And it's kind of one of the things that starts causing her to wonder about things, you know? It just...
Well, Kroll is going to be kicking himself if we're not coming on, because there's a Star Wars reference.
right.
In the dude behind the conducting music of the film. He was a composer for solo Star Wars. And Tammy, he was the composer for How to Train Your Dragon.
I like
that was a great score.
John Powell was the conductor behind this.
I think the score here was good. It was nowhere near How to Train Your Dragon level, but it was good. This was one where the found music made more of an impression than the score did.
Most definitely. Did anyone else have anything else to say about either the composing soundtrack or the soundtrack itself? Was there
I
anything
usually don't say a whole lot about the music because for some reason it to me just kind of like flows with the movie, but like this one stood out because I really liked all the songs and everything. So okay, I can this time I could actually say I like the music. What do you guys?
All right.
You guys always say so. What do you guys think of the music? And I kind of like usually just sit there going, they went with the movie.
there was music? Really? Oh, okay.
So
what was that?
yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But okay. Well, I guess. Well, you were going to say something, Jake?
No.
Okay. Then I guess let's go into favorite characters and or favorite scenes. So let's start with you, Brandon.
Favorite character? I'd say the Doctor. He was very interesting. And I would say the favorite scene for me would be the party scene at the club. There was something about that was both intense but very fun at the same time.
Okay. How about you, Tammy? Favorite character or characters and or favorite scene?
Well, my favorite character is Alice. I like her. She seems like a very strong-willed person and very, I know something's not right, and somehow, some way, I'm gonna make sure these people realize that I know that something's not right. So, my favorite scene is the dinner because she like has made up her mind that she's gonna speak her piece, and she's putting it all out there. She's testing everybody and everything, and so I like
Well,
I
yeah,
like
everybody has the same story of how they met each other, whether it be in like Boston or New York or whatever. But it's pretty much the same fucking ordeal, you know.
right. So that's my favorite scene.
Okay. What about you, Jake? Favorite character or characters and our favorite scene or scenes?
I feel like you probably have to go with Alice in this instance. I feel like she did make someone I was willing to root for. Uh, and Florence Pugh did a really good job of making me interested in the character and wanting to see it. Part of me wants to, at the very least, my favorite character in terms of the character you love to hate would be Frank, because he was such a piece of work. I've never seen Chris Pine play the villain quite like this. I've maybe seen him play the villain before, but not like this. And I was surprised and fairly impressed. I think he did a good job. And he was interesting to watch. And I will agree to a degree with Tammy that dinner scene was great, partly because it was the two of them playing directly off of each other. And that might be my favorite scene. But I feel like there were the parts where you really find out what is going on. I really liked those, not because I liked what was going on, because that was creepy as hell, but I feel like it was handled well and it was intriguing. I'll probably go with those. I feel like there were some other good scenes. The early party scene, I think Brandon cited, was a good scene overall, and there were some really good moments in there. Yeah, that's probably what I want to go with. That.
Okay. And I myself, as far as favorite characters, I do like Alice, but I also like Christopher Pine's character because we're used to seeing him as this like clean cut beach boy looking dude, and even though I know I've seen him with like some longer curly hair that looked like kind of fake in another movie, but I still think that I've never seen him in a villainous like role, and he played it to a T. So, and Pugh, she is got so many different levels of acting. I don't even know where to begin. I love her body. I love the emotion that she brings to the role and whatnot. But as far as scenes go, I do love that dinner moment where she just like kind of like pisses off everyone, and really kind of cuts to the chase. But I can't help not loving that see-through number that she had on when she was waving goodbye to her husband. Like, how could I mean, in the 1950s, I don't think he would have been able to get away with showing up off that much of your Australian bush to the general public. So to me, I don't know why, but that scene I will always remember. So, in any case, did anyone else have anything else to add? Alrighty, then we shall move into our outros.
Actually, Dave, we didn't really go back and do that little discussion on the
oh, sure,
the controversy.
Talk about the controversy.
And
let's do that real quick before we end.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious as to hear what it is too. So.
What is the entire controversy? I know you kind of stated around it, Brandon, but what do you know? And Jake, what do you know?
Well, why don't I say what I know, and Jake, you can say what you know, and then we compare notes.
You probably have more, yeah.
From what I've heard, Shia LaBeouf was supposed to originally be in this film, I believe, instead of Harry Styles. But there was some sort of controversy that ended up with him being booted from the project. I think there was a bit of a knock-up between him and Olivia Wilde, and false accusations were made. That was one of the controversies. There was the whole thing that Florence Pugh brought up a whole bunch of stuff where she would show up to set and she would be the only person on set because Olivia Wilde and Harry Styles were screwing most of the time, and then there'd be times where she just wouldn't even show up on set, or she'd show up like extremely late, but demand that everybody else show up on time. So that a lot of scenes would end up being directed by the assistant director and Florence Pugh. Those were the big ones that I had heard. There was also a lot of dust up because of the interesting relationship between Harry Styles and Olivia Wilde.
Right.
And as you said, I believe Kiki Lane was supposed to have a bigger role than she did, and I can't remember what the circumstances were that got that cut back.
Well, basically, I think it was just in the editing process. They just decided that her character didn't need as big a part, but the optics of cutting her more than anyone else didn't play well with a lot of people. And again, Lane apparently ended up dating Ariel Satchel, who plays her husband. And so they're happy about that, but they were not happy that they got mostly cut from the film, especially Satchel mostly got cut from the film. But from what I understand, so basically, Olivia Wilde wasn't just dating Harry Styles. prior to going into production, she was in a long-term relationship with kids with Jason Sudeikis. And they supposedly split amicably, but very soon thereafter, she was seen with Harry Styles. And I'm surprised y'all didn't. I had actually heard about this, but I hadn't really thought about it in connection with the movie. Sudeikis filed for custody of the kids, and the process server, for whatever reason, Sudeikis claims he had nothing to do with this. The process server showed up on stage and served her papers on stage at a press event for this movie. And that obviously did not make her happy. But like I said, what's up? And then, yes, what Ben was saying about Pugh accused her of unprofessionalism. Apparently, Wilde herself doesn't brook fools. She has been very vocal that she has a quote unquote no assholes policy. And that's one of the stories that's gone around about why LaBeouf got cut, because LaBeouf is a famous asshole. But on the other hand, he's a famous asshole, so why would she hire him in the first place if, so you take that away.
One of the rumors is that one of the whole things was that some of the stuff she had been saying about him or spreading about him had been made up, and some of the stuff that she had said he'd done was not true. So that was another potential angle there. Not that I like to speak up for Shia LaBeouf in any means, to tell you the truth, but
But anyway, yeah, it was. And then it got even weirder when they were doing the press tour, because Pugh refused to promote the movie. She basically did like a couple lines on her social media, did no press appearances for it. Chris Pine ducked out of the press tour. Neither one of them promoted the movie. And then there was a thing where supposedly Harry Styles spit on Chris Pine, which everyone's saying that was blown out of proportion, that it didn't even, they don't even know exactly what caused that rumor. But there was this rumor that Harry Styles had spit on Chris Pine. I think it can. So there was just all kinds of weird, crazy stuff going on behind the scenes. And really, yeah. And supposedly at one point, Pugh and Wilde had a screaming match at each other that, it was pretty rough. And that apparently was corroborated by a lot of people. So, yeah, it's interesting that they got the film made and got it made as well as they did. But
that was my original thing my original statement in the beginning is like, with all of this going on, I was surprised at how well it was acted and done.
Yeah, that's but yeah, it was there was a lot about it. So I think that is probably what killed the film when it came to awards. Apparently it made decent box office. I think it made its money back at the box office, but it just didn't light the awards season on fire the way they hoped. But anyway, crazy stuff happens when you make movies.
Definitely. So now I think we shall go into our outros. So Tammy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I'm David's fiance. I go on this channel in another one, and I enjoy discussing the movies with everybody and hearing their opinions and checking out movies that I've never seen, and rechecking out ones that I have. And now that it's summer, I've been enjoying taking my 1972 Grand Prix out. So,
Alrighty.
In fact, she was out today.
Very cool. How about you, Jake? Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Oh, I'm Kotobukijake. I am the co-host on occasion of the, or more accurately, the co-host of the occasional YouTube channel, SeptumSin versus the World, where we do assorted things related to physical media. We did just have a discussion this past week on To Love Ru, our much promised discussion on To Love Ru finally took place, and that was good times. Meanwhile, I keep quite busy, work full-time job, and also the side gig that hopefully will one day be a main gig, somewhere down the road, is the co-founder of Native Plant Nursery, RVA Homegrown Natives, where we grow native plant species and provide them to others. I do try to make time for viewing, partly to join these folks once a week for our fun movie discussions. Look forward to seeing what this month has to offer. I know 2 of the films coming up are ones I'm familiar with and quite fond of, so that'll be fun. And again, this month is going to be really heavy on the 2022 viewing because I hope it will be. I still have a number of films that need to get knocked out. I think this is the last month we'll be accumulating stuff for the Versus Awards. And again, this film could end up being a big contender. So tune in to that show later in the year when we award films that maybe did get totally overlooked like this one did. And I guess that's all I have this time around. Go.
Alrighty, heading over to you, Brandon. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, SeptumSin to SeptumSin versus the World. We don't do much right now, but we do talk about movies when we're on. We're kind of in a sporadic update session, but we're working on it, and we'll get back to it. We're right now working on a show that's going to be a weekly show coming out hopefully in the future, but it's right now we've got 40 some episodes to film, and we just finished filming episode 3, so I got to get on editing that bad boy, and I'm filming a movie. Matter of fact, Jake and I filmed several scenes for that today, and I'm also on Schlockaholics, where we just talked about the Polonia film Return to Splatter Farm, which was very good. And if you are really interested in seeing something cool this month, keep an eye on SRS's news page, because the Anhedenia animation collection, which includes 3 of the Anhedenia, actually all 3 Anhedenia animated films, including the director's cut of 1985-1986. And I put together the project, and a friend of mine did the artwork for the cover. So it's very cool. You can get in for a possible free giveaway. There's going to be 5 given away, 25 for sale. So if you want a copy, because that thing was a pain in the butt to make, I ain't making any more. So if you want a copy, you better grab one on SRS this month when they go on sale, because I feel like those will sell out soon.
Alrighty. And I believe next week we are going to be covering Last Night in Soho, which is another one of my choices. So stick around for that. But I am one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore. My name is David Struggy, and I love going on talking about films of all sorts and all kinds, along with these fine friends of mine. And I'll hopefully be able to bring you a lot more. But I also moonlight under a different channel called Delusions of Grandeur, where also podcast under the similar doings, where we go on about various films of various natures. And this next Sunday, we're going to be going on about a blaxploitation film called Soul Vengeance. John Fanaka's Soul Vengeance, which is also known as Welcome Home, Brother Charles. And it is a weird film, to say the least. One of the weirdest of the blaxploitation films. So hopefully, because y'all know me, I love covering the weird and the strange. So hopefully my compadres will understand why I wanted to get go on about it. But in any case, I also do some video pickups and some video reviews from time to time. Check those out, like, share, and subscribe to either channel. And I am also working on an anthology that I'm hoping to get at least the first act out there, somewhat. I think I have one more scene I want to film, and then I'm pretty much set, at least on the first act. So exciting stuff. So I know it's taken some time, but I hope all the work that I've put into the project will make it look all the much more better. So in any case, like, share, and subscribe. Let us know down in the comments what you thought of our discussion, and we'll see you next week here on Inside Movies Galore. Say goodnight, everyone.
Night night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Yep, that's all, folks.